Well, welcome everyone to our webinar today. Today we have Joe Nez, and he's going to be doing a presentation on Don't Get Catphished, How to Protect Yourself from Security Threats and Scams. My name is Christine Laughter, and I'm the Director of Kinship Lending at Changelabs, and I'll be running the videos from my end today, and then we'll be getting Joe on shortly. So Changelabs, growing native change makers. So Changelabs provides a creative workspace, tools, resources, and knowledge for native entrepreneurs. We do that several ways here at Changelabs. And some of the questions that we get asked, or the top question we get asked is, how do I start a business? And so we offer a few different resources on how to help you start a business here at Changelabs. First of all, we offer business coaching. Our business coaching team is available every Monday from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. For appointments. So you'll just go to our native startup.org/events to set up an appointment. And anyone is eligible to make an appointment there. So every Monday that happens. And then next we have our business incubator. So every year we select 10 high potential native entrepreneurs to go through our 12-month incubator program. And this incubator program helps them to grow, to start up and grow their business idea. And you can get more information about our business incubator at our website as well. Another question that we get here at Changelabs is, how do I create a website? And so I think I went a little too far. And that's another place you can go to get information on creating a website is during the the office hours on Monday. So you can go there and we can help you to get information on how to set up a website. So Changelabs has a YouTube channel, and we have more than 35 videos covering social media strategy, do-it-yourself marketing, and how to build a simple website. So you're able to go there. And every time we complete one of our webinars, we put that video up, usually within 24 hours. So if you haven't seen the other three or the other videos that Joe has presented on, because this is number 3 of a 4-part series. So if you haven't seen the first 2 videos, you can check it out on our YouTube page, and I will put that in the chat window. And how do I get help running my business is another question that we get here at Changelabs. So we have a creative working space, co-working space, and that's located in Tuba City. And so this is a nice little space that we invite people into so that they can have some desk space, have access to Wi-Fi, color printing, you can do button making, and just like we're doing right now, we have monthly trainings via Zoom. I went blank there for a while. And so we'll actually be doing groundbreaking for our co-working space in the next couple weeks. And we hope to have our brand new space open next year. So just be on the lookout for that. And you can learn more about our co-working space on our website. Another tool that we have here at Changelabs is Malvertising. So this is an app that you can download on your phone, and you can search over 630 native businesses across the Southwest on the Malvertising app. So take a look at that. And if you have any questions, Marcia Gray Eyes actually usually runs these meetings. Her email address is marcia@nativestartup.org. You can shoot her an email and she'll answer any questions that you may have. So without further ado, we will introduce Joe Nez. Oh, here's a few ground housekeeping rules. So stay on mute until the question and answer session. Type your questions in the chat. And like I said, this session will be recorded. Oh, one more thing. I thought I was done. We are hiring here at Changelabs. So we have a community advocate position and a communications and brand manager position available. So if you're interested, again, go to our website, nativestartup.org/jobs. And in November, we have a presenter, Jen Harper. So Jen Harper is the founder of Cheekbone Beauty. So if you don't know who Jen Harper is, I would encourage you to Google her name. So she is she's a native makeup owner, or I can't say even the right thing. She's the founder of Cheekbone Beauty, and she is well known in the makeup world. She actually is now selling her beauty products in Sephora in Canada. And so she's going to be speaking next week on November 3rd. So we encourage you to sign up and check out her webinar as well. So with further ado, I'm going to introduce Joe-Elliot Nez, and he's going to talk about catfish. Don't get catfished. Here we go, Joe.
Thank you, Christine. Appreciate that. All right, so let me go ahead and start to share my screen. Again, my name is Joe-Elliot Nez, and I am the owner and CEO of Nez Technologics, LLC. And we integrate a lot of technology within small business and big business. And we also work with systems and network design, and also graphic and web design, and also computer repairs, depending on the services that we do provide. I'm from Gallup, New Mexico, born and raised. I was able to get my degree here in Gallup and as well as UNM main campus. And my degree is in Management Information Systems at Anderson School of Business at UNM. And this is right now my third year as a business owner within the tech industry. And for today's lesson, today's webinar, we're going to be looking at don't get catfished. And I don't know if most of you are familiar with the term catfish. Maybe it was kind of popularized by the MTV show Catfish, where somebody was impersonating somebody who they weren't actually where are, and trying to find love in all the wrong places. And so in this case, you're going to find love in all the wrong places, and those places we mean cyberspace. And so this webinar is going to be kind of showing you how to protect yourself from security threats and scams that are out there scouring the network and the internet, or you don't want to get caught in the web, so they say. And so this webinar is going to kind of introduce you to the different types of security threats that are on the internet, and also things you should be wary of in terms of scams. And we just kind of want to inform our audience that as you move into the digital world, we want to make sure that you're playing it safe and understand some of the traps that you could fall into regarding some of these threats and scams. And so as you can see, I don't know if anybody has, gotten some emails or was browsing the internet and they came across some of these pop-ups. Either you open up an email and then you see something that says, this is password support from Microsoft, your password's expiring, or this is Netflix and your automatic payment needs to be renewed. And sometimes you'll get some Windows Defender alert saying that your virus, there has been a protection. And so, you're going to be seeing a lot of these as you continue on and kind of explore the digital realm. And so just kind of asking, you can either do it in the chat or, talk about your own experience. But has anybody ever seen any of these out in the internet while they've been browsing? You can either on Microsoft or put it in the chat. I'd kind of like to get some people's experience on what they've seen. And Jobiah, he says he gets pop-ups. And in terms of your pop-ups, Joe, do you feel like you know that those are legitimate or not legitimate? Um, sometimes we will get those pop-ups, and Daryl said, yeah, he sees it on his phone as well. And if as we grow into this digital world, smartphones are becoming more accessible to the internet, and you can browse, using either Google Chrome or Safari, depending on what operating system you're using. And you'll definitely see a lot of these pop-ups in terms of, trying to exploit your information. And so now we're going to go ahead and start to look at some of the threats that we're going to be facing as we browse the internet. We're going to look at the types of threats that we're going to be facing. In the wonderful world of cyberspace also comes the dreadful world of cyberspace, I like to say, because, with the good comes the bad. And so the dreadful part of the threats that you'll be facing, while you explore and interact with the World Wide Web are going to be coming constantly at you. As much as we use it and it's a tool for us, it could be walking through muddy waters and seeing all these pop-ups. And so, we're trying to find the best way to explore the internet. And, understanding these threats can help you alleviate some of that and kind of differentiate between what's real and what's not. And so the types of threats that we're going to be facing, one of them is called malware. That's kind of one of the most influential threats out there in terms of, how many people are being affected by this type of threat. Malware includes the term Trojans. It also includes spyware. And now, as Joe Baya and Daryl have mentioned, they get pop-ups, and those come in the form of malvertising, they call it. And another type of threat is DOS and DDoS. And DOS stands for denial of service, and DDoS is distributed denial of service. And so these types of threats, they include ransomware. So ransomware has been now kind of been charging along the internet and making its way into personal computers and as well as even businesses. I believe there was a couple companies now that had made the news, the headwaves that they've been attacked by ransomware. And I believe the latest one is the manufacturer for the corn candy, the candy corn candy, the nastiest candy out there. Just kidding. Maybe some of them have that. So maybe have that taste for that, but they've actually got hit by a ransomware. And right now, all of their files are being held ransom until they either pay it or, they just do away with what was up for ransom. And then another type of threat is called man in the middle. And man in the middle is more in terms of, kind of on the complex side of threats. And man in the middle is more kind of behind the scenes. And those are the stuff that we don't really see. They're more in the database and in the network part of it. And another one is social engineering. Social engineering includes phishing, spoofing. Also, there's some known as whaling attacks. And these most often are we see in our emails. As we're going through our emails, we'll start to come across these, and we'll kind of discuss that further along. Another one is called SQL injections, SQL. And SQL is basically a markup language for database. So if you do run a web application, SQL, you're going to be dealing with a lot of SQL language. And so SQL injections can actually get into your website, your web application, and do some damage and actually collect data that you don't want to be collected on the hacker end. And so now we're going to actually focus on, within this workshop, we're going to be focused on malware, the DOS or the DDoS, and also social engineering. So the first one is malware. So the first type of malware that we're going to talk about is Trojan malware. So let me kind of go back a little bit. So let me talk about malware. So malware is actually a malicious code or malicious software that's installed on your computer. So malware is a program inserted into a system to compromise the confidentiality, the integrity, and also the availability of your data. And this is done, either behind the scenes secretly where you don't see it, or, it could be right there in the forefront popping up and letting you know that, hey, I'm in your system. I'm taking this from you. So they come in different forms. And now, malware has become one of the most significant external threats to any system. And a system is basically different processes within your network or within either your applications or even in your own business as well. So malware can actually cause widespread damage and disruption to your business or even your personal life. And this requires a huge effort within most organizations to combat. This is one of the most prominent ones that a lot of businesses, especially big companies, are aware of, and they're trying to mitigate those risks. And so as a small business or, personal user within the internet, we want to make you aware of these types of malware and how we can actually combat those. And also, this attack can take many forms. It's also known as a virus. Malware is actually kind of a mutated virus. You can say that because viruses, before technology started to grow and expand, viruses were more prominent. But now malware is a form of virus, and so the malware actually has more. You could say it's more tech savvy to actually infiltrate your system than your typical virus that from back in the day when maybe the Windows 98 systems. And so actually, the virus, it can infect in an application like I was talking about, and also any new applications that maybe you install using an executable. It's also known as an exe file. So the exe files are basically your install files. And so when you're trying to install a software on your program, the executable actually installs all the files within the application onto your actual system. And that's where you get vulnerable, and that's where you're prone to have, a Trojan come in. And so now we're going to actually take a look at what a Trojan malware actually is. So a Trojan, or sometimes known as a Trojan horse, is typically coming from the back door. So the story of, the Trojan Wars and how the Trojan horse came in and was able to infiltrate the enemy in the form of a horse. So that's kind of where they got the term from. And a lot of this is either, again, coming through an application or sometimes even through email. And, when an email actually can be like in a PDF form that can actually contain the virus. And so, again, a Trojan acts like a bona fide application or a file to trick you. It makes it seem like, you're loading or executing an actual real application, but behind the scenes, it's an application that's malicious and is going to collect all your data and actually, do damage to your system. And so how does a Trojan work? So here's an example. Let me kind of give you one. So you think you received an email from someone or maybe somebody their email was affected, and they send you a link that says, hey dude, check this out, click on this. And you kind of given your friend or somebody, an accomplice, benefit of the doubt, said, oh, I trust this guy, I know him, so let me click on it. But actually they got breached, and so now you got breached because of that email chain that was sent. So that's one way that you can get a Trojan malware in that form. And so, not only that, through email, again, if you're on the internet and trying to find free software, that's one of the most easiest ways that you can get malware is if you're downloading or installing, or downloading and installing any software that that's not either from a legitimate source or, you're just hoping that it works. And so when you do download the application and install it and execute it, that malware can actually spread to other files and damage your computer or your system, depending on what you utilize. And the next type of malware is called spyware. So spyware is a type of cybersecurity threat that steals sensitive information and your internet usage data, then it relays it to another user. So basically, they're obtaining your data and they're dumping it into another server, maybe that's on the internet, that they're able to distill your information. This data is often sent to data collectors and sometimes even advertisers. There's another form called adware. That's where actually they take your searching habits, what you've searched for, and they obtain that data and see what you're actually looking at and your past web history. And a lot of them will target you with ads, and then they'll actually send that and sell that information to other people or other third parties that would utilize that data in either a malicious way or maybe malicious targeting or malicious advertising, they call it. And also, spyware can collect your financial and personal information, which can actually lead to identity and identity theft and either stolen money from your credit card or your bank. So spyware can actually track your internet activity. It retains your login methods and your passwords. And it could record credit card inputs that you make into a purchase. And so, being vigilant of what types of spyware out there is one of the ideal ways to combat that. And, I can show you what we're talking about as we kind of move through this webinar. And the next type of malware that's kind of popping up more frequently now is called malvertising. So malvertising, also known, put the two words together, malicious advertising, is the use of online advertising to spread and install malware or redirect your traffic. So, cyber criminals, they can inject infected ads into a legitimate advertising network that displays ads on websites you trust. So, as maybe you're looking at some blog about your favorite subject and, you're reading about those particular topics, and then you'll start to see on the side of your screens, advertisements popping up, and maybe they're indicating, hey, this needs to be installed, or is your computer slow? Click this. And, a lot of this is all called malvertising. And, a lot of this can hit the online advertising industry because, as you're in the e-commerce world, you're trying to look for different products to buy. That relationship, it's hard to find the fine line of what can I sell and what can I not sell. And, the hackers and the people that want your information are exploiting that and using this to gain, an intrusion into your system. And so, these types of advertising software, it includes publishers and advertisers that will buy and sell that ad space. So Google, I don't know if you've ever, I'm sure we all search for something on Google, and Google usually tends to put the ad first that's been paid for by that particular advertising or that company. And so if it's a keyword that they buy a spot at the top. And you'll start to see, websites that you've never been to, but it'll say advertise, and it'll try to entice you to click on that because, us being trying to find the quick way, we don't want to scroll down to find the actual website. We want the first one to be the actual, thing that we're looking for. And so those ad spaces are becoming, malvertised, and, we're trying to make you all aware of that. And I'll, with this webinar, I'm going to show you some of these in the real world. And, I'd like to kind of show you that. So right now I'm just informing you what are out there. And as we go down this webinar, I'll actually show you what I'm talking about in terms of, the different types of malvertising. And next, we want to provide you some tips for prevention for malware. First thing we want to do is manage email requirements. So managing email requirements either could be from looking at your mail vendor, your mail provider, and asking them, if they can require email file attachments to be scanned then saved to a local drive or movable media. So, instead of having all your people within your business email you an attachment that's maybe a PDF, and you notice that you're getting a lot of emails with some irregularity on it, maybe just telling them just to save it on a local USB and then give it to you. If, especially if you're in the same building, sometimes that will eliminate that urge to download different files from your email attachments. And the second would be, manage your files. Don't allow certain types of files to be sent or received by email. So we're talking about, the exe files, the files that you use to install applications. I know a lot of these mail providers have been really, doing a good job of preventing those types of files being sent as an attachment. So, Google, for one, if you try to send an executable through Google, it would tell you that you're not allowed to send that. So, these big mail providers like Google, Yahoo, Outlook, they all do have some sort of email filtration system to, prevent those types of attachments being sent. And also, we want to manage permissions. We want to restrict, what removable devices are being attached to that system that are high risk. So we can actually, especially if it's like a server, something that has valuable data on it that's stored on it, we can restrict what's being allowed to be attached to that device. And, putting also safeguards on your permissions for who has access to they're called super user access. And you want to make sure that only the people who have the expertise and the ability to manage those admin configurations, you want to make sure you have that set in place. And also, we want to update your system regularly. I know Windows 10 especially has been, notorious for updates every week now, it seems like nowadays. And that's because a lot of exploits have been coming out within Windows that is targeting, just the basic users. And so, just doing a Windows 10 update, don't let them sit, in your start menu and just, I'll get to it the next day. Just kind of, try to make that a habit of, if you see an update, try to get that installed as soon as you can. So that way, your system's up to date. And especially now with the Windows 10, they have a built-in antivirus protection, and that Windows update handles those types of virus updates for that. So just, making sure your systems update regularly can help you in being preventive from some malware. And the next type of threat that we're going to look at, that we're going to dive into, is the DOS or the DDoS. And the denial of service, the DOS, and the distributed denial of service, there's two major distinctions between the two. The DOS is just basically just one computer. You can look at it as just one computer that's flooding a particular website. So maybe if you have a website online for your e-commerce or for your own business, and somebody just either wants to mess around with you or actually do harm to your website, they can use one computer just to keep, they call it pinging or trying to access your website. And the more it does that, the traffic builds up and actually can slow your website down to the point where it's crawling and it's super slow. That's maybe we can think of as a DOS or denial of service. And then the DDoS is distributed denial of service, which is actually using multiple systems to target a single system. So, instead of using one computer, maybe they have 10, and they can multiply that denial of service by 10 times. So they can, a big server, take it down within maybe 30 minutes of continually accessing that and overwhelming that system. So the DDoS and DOS, attacks for major shutdowns. They want to bar the user from accessing their service or network. Actually, the goal is to overwhelm the network to the point that it cannot function. So especially, if you're in e-commerce and that's where you're getting a lot of your sales from, and you're starting to see an overwhelming traffic to your network and it's crawling, you could actually potentially lose sales that day if nobody wants to, access a slow computer or a slow websites. So, that could be something that, can be a disruption to your service or to your business. And another type of DDoS would be called ransomware. And ransomware, this is what's been coming around the internet so far, and it's actually, as I've said in the beginning, causing some havoc within the industry of either transportation or manufacturing or even utilities. I've known even, I think down in the South, there was an oil company that was affected by ransomware, and I think it was during the winter time that they were infiltrated and their system was up for ransom, and they couldn't turn on any of their pipes, or they didn't have access to their pipes to provide heat for the family. So that's a major disruption to not only the community but to an economy. So we want to make sure we're aware of what ransomware is. And really, ransomware, it prevents or limits users from accessing their system via a malware or Trojan that's infiltrated their system. Ransomware will ask you to pay a ransom using either an online payment to get your files or your access to your system, or nowadays they've been using cryptocurrency to get that form of payment sent to them, so that way you can access your system or your files. And the reason why they do cryptocurrency or bitcoins, digital currency, we could say, is the digital coins do not leave a foot trail to the actual attacker. So it kind of masks who you're paying. So that's why they've been using a lot of digital currency to be that form of payment. And as you can see here on the slide, this is kind of what one screen would look like if you're actually under ransomware. And I do know that there has been some malvertisements that do have this type of window, but it's not truly a malware. It's just masking itself to look like one, and it can even lock your computer, so to speak. But there are actual ways around it. And again, during our activity session, I'll show you some of those, and we can kind of take a look at that. The tips for prevention for this type of threat, don't click on links in the emails. Again, you want to make sure you know where you're getting that information from, and you want to know if that actual link is legitimate or not. And I can show you some of that as well. And also, we want to scan emails for malware. Looking at your mail provider again, some of them do the basic kind of malware detection, but for the ones that you actually need the top of the line, you can pay an extra service or premium to add that to your emails. So there's also some third-party services that will actually link to your emails to be that basically filter system to combat that from those emails to come into your domain. Another one is firewalls and endpoint protection. Having that installed on your system can eliminate some of those fires, I could say, to spread to other computers on your network. And you actually want to have endpoint protections, and endpoint protections are basically all the devices that are connected to your system. Those are protected. And also, you want to keep your data backups. You want to keep a current data backup for any of your files that you have or that are important to you. So you can either use an external storage to back up your data, either using an external USB that's either like a hard drive or a solid state drive that can be used to back up your data. And if you want to do that, it's good to just plug it in, back up your data, plug it out, and keep it separate from being on your system. And also nowadays, with internet kind of growing and with cloud services, like with either Google Drive or Dropbox or other cloud service providers for data, you could utilize them to back up your data. And also, you want to protect your information. You want to try not to store your passwords on your browser. I know a lot of people tend to do that. They just like the easy route, so they'll save their password. I'm sure some of you have seen that on your browser. Like I know Google tries to do that all the time. And so, it says, do you want to save this password on your browser? And most people say yes. The bad thing about that is if somebody would access your system, especially if you have some of your credit card information or like Wells Fargo, Bank of America, or some that has your financial information, or even like QuickBooks, if they have access to, if you save your passwords, they can actually obtain your passwords from Google to actually, access those web applications for your financials, and that's not a good thing. I know that they've been kind of getting better at that it's called multi-factor authentication. And multi-factor authentication, or you can say MFA, is the ability to use like a second, like a phone or maybe a call or text to say, hey, this is me, this is I'm legit. And so I know that's been kind of coming along, and that's also another way that you can protect your information, is by adding some of those features to your account logins. And then we're going on to the next threat, which is also known as social engineering. And social engineering uses different types of ways to get your data from them for them. So one of them is called phishing. So phishing is a method of trying to get the user to give up, the user to give up either your money or information willingly to the person that's trying to attack you. So this is typically done over emails or texts that aim to create a sense of, maybe you're curious about it, or an urgency, like, hey, you're going to shut down your account, or even fear, playing on the victim's, vulnerabilities, and for them to, have that fear of clicking into those links. So as you can see here, we have one from Wells Fargo. And if you look at the subject, it says alerts, kind of gives you already red flags. So maybe, Wells Fargo wouldn't give me an alert like that. And then also, if you want to look at number one, if you look at the domain, the @comcast.net, that typically tells you that, they're using a free email to send out these types of phishing emails. And so you should put it, but 100% that that's not legitimate, because, Wells Fargo does not have a Comcast.net domain. Most of them are either wellsfargo.com. And, you can really look at the from to kind of determine if it's legitimate or not. And, there will be some emails that will have the like wellsfargo.com, but it would come with additional characters at the end of it. And that would tell you, hey, dude, this is not a legitimate domain. And also, you could look at some of the phishing aspects of it, in terms of, we are sorry, for your protection and security reasons, your Wells Fargo account has been locked. Some of this is kind of already getting fishy, like, well, maybe I should do it, maybe I shouldn't. So best thing to do is just call your Wells Fargo bank and let them know, and they can tell you right there and then what to look for as well. And then also, right below it says, please click the following link to unlock your account. And as you see right here, it says log into, and then this address looks a little legitimate because it has the domain listed. But if we would highlight over that, the domain would change. So I can show you that in our activity session to look at, how to determine if that link is legitimate or not. And so again, with the phishing, this is one of the oldest tricks in the book. It's a common scam that often targets, unsuspecting victims, and it's always done through mail and sometimes even cell phones or, any way they're trying to get you to give up your information to them willingly. And, generally these cyber criminals will always send out fraudulent emails pretending to be from a reputable source, like I said, with Wells Fargo, either Bank of America, maybe QuickBooks or something that has access to sensitive information. They're always trying to fish you into giving up your information. And so again, these always are going to try to get your password and your vital details like your username or even maybe your date of birth, your social security number, something that's very sensitive to you and that you need to verify your identity. And another one is spoofing attacks. Spoofing attack is kind of similar to a phishing. In this case, the hacker pretends to be someone they are not. And, either they act like they're a reputable source. They call you, like, I don't know if you've heard, like I've gotten a call about your Amazon, somebody saying they're from Amazon, that your order needs to be verified and we need to have access to some sensitive information. Can you give us that in order to process your Amazon package? I get those sometimes. And so those are actually spoofing attacks. And, sometimes you can already tell by the voice, either it's robotic or, it's not somebody from, locally. So sometimes you'll start to see those spoofing attacks either through mail again or through calls, or sometimes even the chat box will come up when you're on a website asking for some personal information. And tips for prevention. So, again, we don't want to click links in emails. We want to make sure that they're coming from a legitimate source. And again, you can actually get phishing, anti-phishing on your email from your email provider. So, if maybe your Office 365 that you've purchased, if that has that feature, you want to get that enabled. Or you can go through a third-party service. And also, looking at domain senders is a big thing always. I've always used that to identify if I knew it was a scam or not. And I'll definitely show you that in the activity session again. And again, never give out passwords ever. Even if you think you should be giving it out, don't give out passwords. I know sometimes maybe there's indications that maybe you did forget your password and you knowingly going to go say, forget my password. And, that particular service that you're trying to get access to your account for, they have their own processes of getting your password reset. So, they'll ask you for more information to verify that it is you. So, just being aware of that and knowing their process to reset your password, that will help you identify I shouldn't be giving out my password or any sensitive information. And another one is, be vigilant. You got to make sure you always got to stay on your toes and know that, nobody's going to come and ask for your personal information out of the blue. There's something behind it. Either it's malicious or something to harm you. And then now I want to talk about scams. And, I know one of the most prominent scams are also known as the Windows scammers. And so if you do get like a malvertisement indicating that, either your computer has been infected with a virus, call this particular number, or, your drivers are slow, call this particular number, or this is Dell support, call this particular number. Those are out there. And I just kind of want to show you a little video of, what you could potentially see. And these guys explain it pretty well. So I'm going to go ahead and show that, and then we can talk about it.
Thanks for watching Tech Wiki. Click the subscribe button, then enable notifications with the bell icon so you won't miss any future videos. So picture this. It's a lazy Friday night at home because for the 24th week in a row you don't have a date, and you're enjoying another fine episode of Tech Quickie while idly browsing the web in a separate window. And then suddenly, you get an alarming looking set of error messages and pop-ups telling you that your PC, which you thought was cleaner than a Singapore sidewalk, is hopelessly infected with dozens of viruses, and you need to call Microsoft at this convenient number right now to fix it. And whoa. Stop right there. There's nothing wrong with your computer. It's a tech support scam. And not the one where you pay $100 for someone to come over to plug in the SSD you bought from Amazon. That may be overpriced, but at least it's legitimate. Tech support scams usually start from inside a browser window, or they can come in the form of a phone call. Now, over the phone, basically, someone cold calls you saying that they're with a major corporation like Microsoft in the Windows support department, or something to that effect, and that they have somehow detected serious issues with your PC, maybe through a non-existent ISP report. Then there's browser-based scams. These have been rapidly increasing in popularity, especially on unlicensed streaming sites for movies and sporting events. The way these ones work is that many of them try to visually emulate real error messages, like the Windows blue screen of death, and they will often throw in a bunch of logos from companies like Google and Apple to make them look more legit. But while either of these forms of attack can be disposed of simply by hanging up the phone or closing your browser, they may try to convince you that doing this, waiting until the morning to get a second opinion from Geek Squad, or powering off your system could result in irreparable damage, and that you have to instead allow one of their technicians to fix the issue for you. In either case, once one of these shady characters feels like they've got your attention, they usually have you bring up Windows features that a novice computer user might be unfamiliar with. For example, having them type something simple into command prompt and then using whatever comes up as evidence of a malware infection, or telling them to open Event Viewer, which keeps a log of every system message that pops up. Now, the thing is that even a PC that's functioning normally will often have a good number of errors in the event viewer. Things as small as a game crash or a slight issue with your network connection. But the scammer will tell the victim that these error records are super dangerous and they will totally wreck their data. Then they'll present their solution: downloading remote access software so that they can take control of your system to fix the problem. At some point during this process, the scammer will also demand payment, often by credit card, either to renew a software license or fix these fake problems. The ones who are mostly just interested in stealing your credit card details might just kind of putz around for a minute or two and clear the event viewer log to make it appear that they did something, but the more nefarious ones can also use their remote access to install actual malware or steal your personal files. There have even been cases of scammers deleting the data and system files if the victim refuses to pay. And even though a common stereotype is that it's older folks that fall for these scams more frequently, the truth is that younger people in their 20s and 30s have also been hit hard by this sort of cybercrime due to spending more time online. So to avoid becoming a victim, keep this in mind. Companies like Microsoft, Apple, and Google will never cold call you or email you out of the blue to tell you that there's a problem with your PC or your iPhone or whatever. And if you get a scam error message while you're using a browser, remember that real errors will almost never contain any useful information. And they will certainly never prompt you to call a specific number. And while we're at it, real blue screens of death take up the entire screen, not just your browser window. Another way to tell if you're being scammed is to go back in time to 3rd grade and pay close attention to spelling class. Many of these fake warnings are littered with spelling and grammatical errors, as well as super bombastic use of all caps and many exclamation points. Not exactly the type of thing you'd expect to see from a serious multi-billion-dollar software company. If you want to see some real-world examples of what to watch out for, we've actually linked a page from Microsoft down in the video description, which has lots of useful hints and even screenshots of these sorts of scam pages. So if you see one, the best thing to do is just close your browser, unless you want to be like Linus Media Group alumnus Nick Van Berkel, and you enjoy spending your spare time trolling these people for a bit of instant justice.
Snorkeling with those gosh darn dolphins.
Speaking of instant, this segue into...
All right. So that was just a kind of depiction of what type of Windows scams that you could potentially run into. And, there are dozens of other scams that you could potentially run into. I could take the whole 30 minutes now going through all those scams, but I felt that the most, prominent one that we've all kind of interacted with or maybe seen are the Windows scammers / tech support scams. And so I just wanted to kind of show you, Linus had a really good explanation of what to look out for and, what to identify.
To our sponsor.
And so now, these are the type of antivirus protections that you could actually get. These are the free versions of it. The ones I kind of recommend in terms of, they do a good job of protecting your system, but there are limitations being a free antivirus software. Like for Malwarebytes, the free version, you get quite a few out of it. But the main one is the ability to the real time protection, you could call it. As you're browsing the internet and malware pops up in terms of malvertisement, it'll block it from you even seeing it. It'll cut that domain off and saying this is a bad site. We're deactivating it. Same with Kaspersky. They have their free version and then they have their premium version. And so depending on what your budget is, what you're willing to deal with, maybe you want to just buy one for a year and just let it run and let it do its thing, protecting you in real time. Or if you don't mind, maybe if your budget's smaller, but you don't mind, running scans every day manually or, just going through the hassles of updating it periodically as well. And also, if you have Windows 10, Windows 10 is, has been updating their security as pretty well. They've been compared to some of these other antivirus protectors. One I don't have listed here, as you know, that you'll see in a lot of Windows 10 machines are McAfee. McAfee, they always give you that free subscription. It does what it needs, but to me, they're always trying to sell you, and they kind of act like an advertiser and always pushing you to download all their different programs. And
Joe, do you want me to read the questions that we have?
Sure, but let me go ahead and do a little bit of show and tell, and then
Okay.
All right. So now we get to have a little fun here. I have a computer here that's ready to scour the internet and see what we can get into trouble with. Just kidding. Let's see what we can do here and see what it looks like. So this is Navajo, or in terms of Homer, Navajo. So right now, typically as you're, browsing the internet, you want to try to find a particular need that you either trying to resolve or you're trying to either obtain. And so, for instance, say we're brand new, we get in a computer and you have a new printer. And so the printer comes in and, it comes with a disk, an optical disk, right? And of course, back in the day, that was no problem because every computer, every laptop had a built-in optical drive to read CDs. And nowadays, with technology, they've been eliminating the optical drives just to make the laptops a lot thinner and more portable. So a lot of manufacturers have been dropping the optical drive or the CD drive. And so now they're all relying on digital downloads. And so, us being the shortcutter, we like to I don't need to follow that link and type that big link in to download the driver from the manufacturer. I just want to go to Google and type in HP printer drivers. And boom. And so Google has been pretty good about, with some of these typical keywords, key searches will be all the way to the top. But sometimes some of the advertisers will be right at the top, and you'll see an ad. So right here, we'll find a model. We'll say we're trying to install the HP NV Photo 7855. So we'll do HP printer 7835 driver. And so as you can see, it's support.hp.com. If we click on that, let me do a new link. Put it at the bottom. Okay. So this one, if you look at the domain, support.hp.com, this will give us the indication that this is a legitimate website. And also you can go to your little connection right here and then see if the connection is secure. And most cases, all the websites that are legitimate will have this secure. And this basically is telling you that the certificate for this website is true. And as you can see, it's issued to support.hp.com. And it gives you the issuer, the certificate issuer. So this lets you know this is legitimate. Also, this is where you can download the drivers for that printer to use it. But maybe sometimes there's a little bypass in this right here, printerdrivers.com. Printerdrivers.com/NV photo. Yeah, this may have a certificate. And if you look at the certificate, it's, as you see, it has a different SSL right here, issued to. And that can raise some flags right there. And also, when you try to download a particular driver, so if we go here and I want to download this one. It's a little too long. Well, there, we'll do a small one. And so if you can see here, it's an executable, EXE. And then executable tells you that it's an application that you're trying to install on your computer. And so we'll let that download. And now let's say, hey, I want to get an Adobe PDF download because I need to look at PDFs. And as you see right here, add, Adobe is at the top. Sometimes the malicious ads can creep up and actually take over this spot. So not always will you see Adobe at the top. And so if we click on that and we actually look at the link again, adobe.com right here. So that tells you it's legitimate from Adobe. So that gives us one indication too. And if you scroll down, we'll use the word free. I notice if you use Windows or the word free, sometimes these malicious ads will start to populate. We'll do Adobe Pro. Free download. So right here is the advertisement. If you see an ad, download free PDF reader. So, okay, let me go download that. And then right here, oh, recommended. We'll go ahead and download that too. So we can download that. And then let's see what Linus said. As you noticed, Linus talking about, hey, some people want to watch some free movies. I don't want to pay $5. Let's go watch some free movies. And then click on that. No, free movies, great. And then let's watch Toy Story. So as you can see, this is a redirect. And then right here, of course, you get these, oh, let's call that contact support. And they say, let's continue. Oh, no. And see, as I hit this and I try to get out of it, I'm caught up in it. Oh, no, I can't get out of it. What do I do? Well, there's one way that you can get rid of it. If you accidentally click on one of them, if a malicious advertisement, you can do Control-Alt-Delete. And then once you do Control-Alt-Delete, a task manager will appear, and you want to click on that. This task manager, we can go to more details. And since it's Chrome, because I'm in Chrome right here, that's where it's getting this type of pop-up or malvertisement. So then I want to go to there. So I'm going to click on Chrome, and then you want to end task. And as you see, once I hit end task, it took me out of Google. And I no longer see that spoof. And hey, great, my PDF's ready. Let's download that. We can get all these free things. So they say. All right. What are other people? What about, oh, I want some free music, MP3 download. If you can tell, like all of these are, free. They say, oh, it's free. It's a free download. The other one's still installing. So let me go to my email while that's going on. And let me show you the email portion of, because I did get some emails sent to me, and then I'm forwarded it to myself. So let me resend it really quick. sent it to myself, but they didn't go through. Maybe Google is blocking it for me. Maybe that's a good thing. Give me one moment. Okay. We refresh it. Well, that's not popping up. I bet you Google's blocking it. So let me bring up my other screen really quick. So this is one other type of phishing. And if you see here, it tries to kind of swindle you, saying on Microsoft, your password's expiring. Keep your password now. If you hover over it, you'll see the link in this, and it'll kind of say, it'll be different from your actual office, because right now it says www.secretmailsystem.com/ROO, and you can even right click on it and copy the hyperlink, and then maybe bring up Notepad, and then right there, this is the link. So this particular phisher went out of the way to create me my own account, which is ROOinfo@nesttechnologics.com. So let me pull that up on mine to see what it looks like, the portal. So it looks like already this was signaled as a phishing, because otherwise it would have came up to kind of look like a Windows login, and it would say, enter your username, enter your password, confirm. And then once I would enter my information, then it would show that I am, vulnerable to being attacked. So, it's good. So a lot of these domains, they're actually being taken off as, throughout the day. So somebody either notified the right people and they got this page suspended. And so I got this email like yesterday. So it took about a good day for them to suspend this account. And then also, if you look at here from the sender portion of it, it says from support IT. And right here, there's a link. It says from coolmaterial@coolmaterial.com. That's definitely not Microsoft. And as you see here too as well, there's a two, and it's a yasinmepo@yahoo.com. So just using those determinations all right, this is a phishing scam. And, there's not much we can do. We can block this user from sending me email, but they use different domains, and, you just can continually going through those blockings every day, and it's just going to take a lot of part of your time. So best thing to do is just ignore it, and, delete it, and just be wary of it and know that they're trying to fish you into giving up your emails. So let me go back to my computer over here, and I want to show you one thing really quick. So I was mentioning the passwords for a Google account. So let's create an account. Let's call it create a Dropbox account. And I want to create one. Now Joe. Yep. Joe. Gmail.com. And I'm going to make a cool password. I'm going to agree. A lot of these accounts I'm going to deactivate after this presentation. So I'm not taking up any space. So as you see right here, save password. Oh yeah, of course I want to save it. Yes, and then if people unknowingly, oh yeah, I want Google to save and fill all my passwords. And then unknowingly you're gonna go ahead and authorize it. And so now the actual password's saved within your settings. So if you go to your settings here, so somebody gets potentially into your computer, what they could potentially do is just go into your settings, and then right here, you can go to privacy and security, and it's going to be under security. Well, the fastest way we can just type is passwords. So it's under security, standard protection. Actually, it'd be under autofill passwords. And right here, as you can see, saved passwords. Right here, it'll show you all the accounts that I've saved my passwords to. And all it takes them to do is hit that button. And then they have access to your admin passwords. I can put in my new password. Prevented myself from getting my own password. That's good. Well, what they would have access to your account, then they would potentially get into your passwords using and it would appear right here. So that would be one way that they can get your passwords, and also they can get in using registry, get into your registries. So that's one thing that I try to tell everybody is not to save their passwords on Google or any other browser. It's always best just to remember them or put it on. There's one that people, the password keepers. There's one called 1Password, and what 1Password does is manages all your passwords, just kind of like a wallet. And that's one thing that you could use to manage all your passwords. Alrighty, so now I can go for some questions. We've got a little bit of time for questions.
Okay, well, let me start from the top, Joe. That way we have people who are listening to the recording can hear the questions. So the first one is from Joe Elliot. He asks, is there a way to use checksums, hash values, MD5 checks in the Apple and Windows environments? Or is this mainly used in open source communities like Linux? Thanks.
Alrighty. Yeah, with Joe's question, you're talking about when you download an actual file from either from Dropbox or from a particular cloud establishment. Is that what you're trying to ask, Joe?
Yeah, I was just wondering if they have things like those checksums, because I know it's not really talked about in Windows, and I don't know if that's because that's not really something that is done on the Windows platform or even the Apple platform. I was just throwing it out there to see if that was a thing, and if so, is that another recommended way of protecting yourself from malware and viruses?
Yeah, definitely. Using those types of authentications, because basically the checksums are using like a hash key between the sender and the receiver, and that verification lets you know that it's from a legitimate source because of those hashes. That's definitely one way to do that. Another way is to do like they call the file transfer protocol, or SFTP, and that's one way to send files and do it in a secure way, because that's what they use too, is those types of encryption keys. So like if you're on Apple and you have your own file server and you want to securely connect to that and exchange data, using maybe something like FileZilla can be used in that same way, because they use those types of SHA-256 encryption keys. And so that's one way you can, instead of sending it through email. So if you have a business and you only give some people a certain amount of access to particular files and folders within your server, your FTP server, then that's a lot more secure than sending it over email.
Okay, thanks, Joe. The next question is, most of us nowadays are using tablets and cell phone devices. Are these devices with mobile operating systems impermeable, impenetrable? I can't even say that. Impenetrable, unscathed, safe from hacks, viruses, malware, phishing, catfish?
Oh, so like the different operating systems. Yeah, once a device is connected to the network in terms of internet, it's always going to be vulnerable to those types of attacks. So if you're looking at Windows machine or Android or iOS, they're all going to be permeable to they have that ability to be attacked. And so you just got to be wary about that. That's the case, and don't be going to websites that that aren't legitimate or iffy about. You just exposing yourself to those vulnerabilities. And so really, us being on the cyberspace, there's not very many like a lot of these protections are are safeguards, but they're always ways, there's exploits around them, because it's programmed by humans, and so we're all imperfect, and so they'll have always either a backdoor or some type of exploit to expose it. And that's why there's a couple, they call them white hats, who actually are trying to find the cracks between them to let the software developers know that there's an exploit and they need to patch those. So any device that's connected to the internet, it's always going to be vulnerable to these types of attacks.
The next question comes from April Tinhorn. She wants to know, what is the best antivirus software for Mac, for iPhone, for a router?
For Macs, they're a totally different operating system from Windows in terms of how they receive and install data. So Macs are not that. They're really built secure. They have all the protections, a little more than what you would have in a Windows machine, just because they safeguard a lot of their files, and so very rarely you'll see a Mac hacked, in terms of if some of these websites, but they're all like Bitdefender, WebRoot, Symantec. They all can be added to the Mac operating system and provide you more protection than you would just with a regular Mac. But I know Macs are a little bit more secure than a Windows machine, but it doesn't mean that you can still be attacked from the Mac OS.
Yeah, I asked Joe because my business insurance, it requires me to have antivirus software on all my electronic business devices. Mm-hmm. And so I have WebRoot. I've had WebRoot on my Mac, and it's okay, but I don't know. That's why I was asking if anyone else in the group has a recommendation. Like, I don't know if WebRoot's the best. I did my research. I was reading on PC Magazine the different software they recommended, but I was looking for real world experience. But I see that from what you're sharing us that you're a Windows guy. So.
Yeah, and that's just because I think the majority of users are all Windows. I think it's like either 60-40 or 65-35 in terms of users, and so a lot of, and that's just because cost as well. People are willing to spend a lot less on a Windows machine than an actual Mac machine. And
yeah, especially during pandemic and with all the different hacks, and I think social engineering is actually a big topic to talk about for catfishing, because I know that went through on Facebook. Using social engineering, that people were able to get passwords, use Facebook Pay. I saw that in our little corner, Wallapai Res, and how it reminded me of, if you could map it, it just was like, okay, this one person gave the phone number of this one person, and then like how it just, it infiltrated everybody, and they got like their Facebook passwords and Facebook Pay like hacked, and they were able to just infect everybody. That was real world to me, to see how fast it affects things. So that's why I was just asking about, I just switched to an iPhone, and obviously I have my router here at home, but just looking at different techniques of, I went and created a new little network, even just for guests. I don't let guests now connect to Wi-Fi anymore. Probably the biggest security threat I have is my 9-year-old.
Oh yeah.
She clicks on everything to install, to follow, and I'm like, you can't. I'm like, that's worse than like leaving our physical front door open. And so I think even showing, and I think as natives we get that, like how we're our relationships and how we're all tied together, but I don't think it correlates into on the web, because we're all connected. She and I are on the same network, or when my mom comes to visit, she's on the network, and how that really poses security threats, not only to me personally, but like my small business. And so I've had to make some changes because of that. So that was basically what my question was about. Minimally, because insurance requires me to have all my devices have to have some kind of antivirus software.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I'm glad you're taking that into consideration and understanding that as a business owner to safeguard your, front door in terms of, when you're stepping out into cyberspace, and, implementing some firewall rules, and, just knowing just the basics of that can actually help you out in the long run, and, being safe on the net.
Well, thank you, April, for those questions. One question from Joe is, will turning the monitor off make the pop-up go away?
Will turn out the monitor make the pop-up go away? No, it won't, because that one I showed you with that pop-up interfering, if you were to exit out, it would come back if you would do it would say you want to restore this, or sometimes it'll create like a notification saying, do you want to allow notifications from this website? And some of us will just click allow, and that will continually allow that particular malware or the malvertisement to pop up continually and make it look like an actual virus. But Control-Alt-Delete and ending the task of that particular browser is probably one of the fastest ways to get bypassed it. And then just in case, run a scan on your computer using whatever antivirus software you have. And then also, I know some browsers do have a feature where you can check if there's any harmful extensions or add-ons to that particular browser.
And Daryl has had a question. He says, what do you think about RMCH email? Say their network was hacked. So they advised, I guess, the employees to get free antivirus protection. He didn't do that because he wasn't sure.
With the RMCH, them being a hospital, they do have a lot of stricter requirements because of regulations called HIPAA, and HIPAA is basically protecting health data of particular clients or people who are being serviced by them. And I'm pretty sure that with their insurance policy, they're not allowed to have any type of free type of antivirus on their computer. I'm pretty sure they have maybe a service agreement with a particular antivirus provider, and they get all their machines, and all those machines installed with that particular antivirus.
Okay, and one more question. Joe asks, or Joe says, "We love you, Joe. You're amazing. Tell us what your favorite hacker movie is. Swordfish, Hacker, Mission Impossible."
Oh shoot! We'll go. I like Swordfish. With Hugh Jackman, and then Hacker, of course, with Angelina Jolie, and we gotta love Mission Impossible as well. Getting all the behind, all the hardware that they're able to manipulate all the systems. I'd say I like Swordfish. It was pretty intense with Halle Berry and all that.
Very good. All right. Well, thank you so much for that presentation. A lot of good information, Joe. And again, if anyone didn't catch the whole presentation, you can go to our YouTube channel to check out the video. The video should be uploaded here in the next 24 hours. And let me just share my screen. Real quick here. Where is it? Up here it is. So again, for coming to our presentation today. If you have any questions about today's presentation, you can email Marcia Greyeyes at marcia@nativestartup.org. And again, information on hiring. These are the jobs we have available at Changelabs: a community advocate, communications, and brand manager. And next week, again, we have the presentation by Jen Harper, A Day in the Life of Jen Harper, founder of Cheekbone Beauty, on November 3rd at 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, 11 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time. So let your friends know about this presentation. The webinar by Jen Harper should be interesting. I'm looking forward to it. I'd love to hear what she does over there as a founder of Cheekbone Beauty. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Again, thank you, Joe. And we will see you next week. Have a good day.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.